Here we go. There we go. Hey, Mehreen. Welcome
Hi.
to our live. Hey, how's it going?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for having me,
Good.
Kendra.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. It's a real honor to, like I said, just talk to real women, hear stories. It's so empowering, and I hope that it builds a bit of confidence and inspiration for the other women that are listening here. So let's get right into it. Why don't you tell us a bit about who you are? You can share what you do for work, and then a bit of the symptoms that you are experiencing on a day-to-day before we began working together.
Yeah, so who I am, I'm a business consultant by day. I'm a coach by night. I live in Atlanta. I've got two beautiful high school, one in high school, one in college children, married my college sweetheart. And that's a little bit about me in a very small nutshell. And yeah, what I'm passionate about is nowadays is getting reconnected with myself, right? So, yeah, that's what we're here to talk about, right?
Yeah, so I would love to know more about this reconnection piece. We've been talking about it on and on all weekend, how women, maybe we recognize it, maybe we don't, maybe we feel it just kind of like as a deep kind of pit of empty or lack. But the reconnecting with our body is so important. And one of the ways that I like to bring that on is to help women understand that the scars that we have on our body are like sites of where we have disconnected, because as you know, and as I'm sure women who've been watching this all weekend and attending the retreat, all scars matter, and every scar has a story that is associated with it, and stuff that can bring a lot of kind of raw emotionality that we just naturally as human beings avoid. And so the scar work is really about coming into our body and reconnecting back in with those areas, not just with kind of resolving the emotion around them, but also getting our whole physical body in a better place so that everything runs more efficiently and you're not kind of bogged down by those sorts of situations. So why don't you share where you have scars on your body? We've been talking about scars all weekend. So if you want to just throw out the big ones, even the small ones that you have, toss them out.
Yeah. Well, let me back it up even more and talk about, why it was so important to me and where I was at, that when we spoke, that I was like, how do I sign up? I think we met through a networking group, actually, through Coaches Networking Group, and you had shared with me what you do. And quite honestly, as soon as I met you, I felt this connection, and I felt like this empathy, the sincereness that you have within yourself was the first thing that really caught me. And then you started talking about scars and what you do, and I got really intrigued by it because I have several of them. I have several of them because I've been in a car accident when I was 16, 17. So I've got a rod in my leg, so I've got that scar. I've had two C-sections and a full hysterectomy. So I've got the abdominal scar, and then I've had some biopsies done when they thought I may have had lymphoma on my neck. And then when I was a child, I hit my head. So I had several scars that I could really speak to. And when you and I talked, it just, something there just had me think that maybe this is what I need. And where I was coming from was that becoming a workaholic. I became a workaholic. And the reason why I became a workaholic is I was avoiding being with my body. And that actually happened, now that I think about it, it happened after my hysterectomy. Because at that point, I decided I don't have any other purpose to any other further to produce children, and all these things started happening. So the way I dealt with it was dove into work and became very career oriented, which is not a terrible thing. But along the years, my health is now catching up to me, mentally, physically, and I knew I needed to start taking back control of, I don't know if you want to call it control, but getting reconnected with my body, but there were things I didn't want to address, things I didn't want to think about. There are things that I literally did not like about myself. And what I discovered through the scar work, the techniques that you showed, had me do when I joined your program, is that it was very deep rooted to the things and the feelings and the thoughts and around the scar that was there that I never really addressed, that I never really acknowledged, that I never really talked about. And being able to get in touch with that, doing the scar work that you taught was, first of all, it wasn't as easy as I thought it would be. But the result of it was that I felt more connected and I felt more myself, and that I mattered. That I mattered is probably the most, was a breakthrough for me.
Yeah, amazing.
Coming from being in my head all the time to now getting really back in touch with your soul is what I don't even want to say heart. I want to say your soul, because I think I'm in touch with my heart, but it was like the soul, the depth of who I am, and acknowledging what I've gone through in life, who was there, who wasn't there, what was said during that time, what wasn't said, whether it was in the medical, place or at home or with family members, whatever it was, all of those things, like really processing what had occurred. Getting in touch with that was probably the most breakthrough that I've had over the last few months.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you for sharing all of that. I think as women are listening to this, they're like a lot of head nodding is probably going on, because I think just the scars that you have on your body, it's a very common scarring to have the C-section or just the lower abdominal hysterectomy kind of scarring. And then what we have been learning over this weekend in the retreat is when you start thinking about what you're experiencing on the day to day, and then recognizing that a lot of that stuff is happening after the scarring has occurred, like after the event, when you said like, this really hit home and landed after my hysterectomy. That is such a powerful aha kind of insight that we have been kind of working through all weekend. And once you can line these things up, it feels like there's a direction forming. And just like you said, it's totally scary to go into hard places. We are hardwired to avoid that at all costs. It's like in our humanness to avoid pain and challenge and struggle. But within a transformation journey, the courage that comes from just persistence and working through things bit by bit, I think is so inspiring and courageous. So as women are listening, I'm sure that, I was getting goosebumps just listening to all of this that you're just sharing with us. I think it's a great message just to get out there through the context of scars. So thank you for sharing all of those pieces. And what do you feel like, if we just move forward to present day, when you're talking about what matters, is there physical things that you feel has changed? So we've been talking a lot about digestion stuff, just bloating, distension, any kind of like chronic pain things that can be easily worked through by paying attention to your scars and working through them, as well as all of those potent emotional things. Like you spoke a lot about the amazing positive benefit of emotion and energy stuff, which I think is also really hard for us to access and understand. Like, I think women, we're naturally intuitive and we know that stuff is there, but how do we actually get into it and resolve these things? How can we like unstick all of that raw kind of tender heart and soul stuff that you were speaking to? So if we ask questions about the physical, do you have physical things that you've noticed that have improved, as well as any other emotional, energetic things that you want to just touch on?
Yeah. We as coaches, we talk a lot about self-care. And a lot of times people think, I'm going to take this a little bit deeper, but a lot of times we think that's, reading a book or taking a bath or, doing the spa day. But what we forget about self-care is also acknowledging ourselves and acknowledging the feelings that we've gone through or going through and really working through them, rather than we, as women, I feel like we stuff them down. Especially if you work at, like me, I work in a very male-dominated company, right, corporation. And so we're just taught to just move through. There's no crying in baseball type of situation, right? We just keep moving through. And what I've been more by paying attention to my body, paying attention to the trapped feelings that may be there, or trauma, or things, that had happened or not happened around this time, and really understanding it as a grown-up. Like, I feel like I'm a grown-up now that can go back, because I'm talking particularly my hip scar from when I was 17. There were stories that I've made about it that I've been carrying for, what am I, 43? So 30 years, almost 30 years with myself. And that, my limitations, my body limitations, my health limitations, my worthiness, all of those things have been carrying with me. And taking the time to work on my body has allowed me to, in other areas, pay more attention to what I'm eating, how I'm sleeping, how much I'm sleeping. We talk a lot about my sleeping, how I'm doing body movement. I've realized that even with my leg, that I dominate more with my left leg because my right leg is injured. Now, how do I get strength back into my right leg? And what I really thought was that it wasn't even possible, because I messed up and didn't go to all of my physical therapy when I was 17, because I wanted to do other things instead. So how do I start doing that now so that my body can be more balanced? I am unbalanced because I'm compensating for that. So all of those things, and I didn't realize that I could heal on my own by using these techniques, by following the direction that you're giving, like what to acknowledge, what not to be doing anymore, and what you should be doing, and noticing, paying more attention to myself has been, I don't know, it's been a breakthrough for me, not only for me, but for my family. I've been able to have a hard conversation with my husband about it. Like, there's physical things that I want to be able to do that I never really communicated with him. He didn't realize how much pain and limitations I've put on myself that I do want to do with him together, like go the hiking, go the zip line, do all the things. But because of something that happened to me when I was 17, I think that my whole life has stopped, physically. And now I'm realizing that that's not the case. And it's dealing with the emotional and the deeper part of that scar work that helped me open that up, that it's now giving me light and direction and where I want to go, rather than just sit at my desk and work all day.
Yeah.
I don't know if that answered your question, but I don't know how, and I really don't know how to explain, because everybody's scar is going to have its own unique story. But for me, it was around my parents, how they showed up, what the medical doctors said, what happened to my life at that moment, from being athletic to not being athletic, to, so many things that could have, what were, said, done, how long I was in the ICU for 2 weeks, like by myself. My family couldn't even be there with me. And I was a kid, all those things that were happening that I didn't even realize was impacting me. I was able to deal with those.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that
amazing.
was phenomenal.
I feel like there's 2 points in there I want to just pull out as just kind of a topic to touch on before we close out here. And I think the first thing is when you said that even though this is so old, it's been, 3 decades, there's this really lovely hope that comes with scar work, because the truth is, in my world, and I help it be known in, all women's world, that everything is workable. You just need to ask good questions and have good tools. So this is so important to me that women know, regardless of how old scars are, there is an opportunity to change. And, you know, you were just saying that so wonderfully with your hip scar and how old it is and all the stuff you thought you couldn't do, and the compensation and the lack of muscle and all of the kind of spiral effect of that, choosing to live your life in a certain way because of the scar. Everything is workable when we're talking about scars. And I think that that's a beautiful message to get across. And then the final piece there, when you're just talking about that wonderful ripple effect, like when you work on yourself, when you take on that responsibility and that commitment to transforming yourself, how much that ripples out and benefits not just you and how you show up in the world, but all of the people around you, including your own business, including your family, the relationships that you have with partner, spouse. All of that is so powerful. So thank you for just sharing all of that. Do you have any final little this and that's before you want
Yeah,
to?
I do have something, you know, for people who are out there that are listening, you know, who are saying, well, I can take care of this on my own, or who are probably thinking that, well, it's a scar, I know what happened and all these things. There is something deeper. You don't even realize it, that it's happening, but there is something deeper. And Kendra just has this nurturing way of being there for you, understanding, like a best friend that you can say your deepest, darkest feelings that is there hidden underneath, that you can speak to, and she'll validate that what it's there and how it's showing up in other areas of your life. You need that person to objectively be accepting and to show that there is a pathway from there, because we get stuck. We're our own limitations. I mean, I know this as a coach. We're our own limitations. Even coaches hire coaches, right? Because we know that we need that little bit of help, somebody to keep us accountable to. I know that I was very resistant, right? You're like, Mehreen, when are we going to do this? Like, I don't want to. She's like, why don't you want to? I'm like, because I don't want to deal with these things. My life is fine. It's not fine, but it's fine. Why do I have to work about something that happened to me 30 years ago? But what after dealing with it, when once we crossed that path, what it gave me was freedom and ease, and I didn't know that I even needed. I didn't even know that was needed. And so now it's just an addiction to do more work to make sure that I can get all those things out, because every single time things in my life start to get better just by my working on, you know, things that have happened to me in the past, by releasing them through the scar work. It's making my life better. That's all I can say. So if you're looking for, you know that you need to do something, you've got a scar, but like, oh, it happened, it was fine. There are so many stories behind that scar that you probably didn't even realize until you really start paying attention and start talking about it. And that's my final thing, is like, why wouldn't you want to do this for yourself so that you could go further in your life? You know, you'll be surprised what you'll accomplish for yourself. But thank you, Kendra, so much. So much love for you, for what you've given me. I sleep better at night. I feel better. I take more baths. I'm okay to be with myself. Walking is getting easier. You know, all of the things are getting, I'm feeling so much better. And I really appreciate that. I'm looking forward to our further journey together.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mehreen. It was so lovely to hear your story and all your sweet, kind words. There's women gushing about you all over. Thank you, Mehreen. Thank you for sharing this. It's inspirational, supportive, and providing hope for all of us. So thank you. That's a wonderful service for women who are watching. And we will be in touch soon. I think you may even see Mehreen inside the program here and there. So stay tuned for all of that excitingness. Thank you for everyone for joining. I'm going to put Mehreen's just website inside to this comment thing. So if you want to check out Mehreen and see what she's up to, I'll put her in